So, I have this bottle, and if you look really closely, I don't know if you can, but if you look really closely, it's filled with some shiny powder. It looks a lot like glitter. You'd think it was, but it's not. Let me tell you how I came about this bottle. A long time ago, it was my great-great-grandfather. He lived in a land where there was nothing but snow and rocks and dirt, and it was really boring, so he left. And he left on a boat. Now, this boat had the head of a great serpent, so it had the beady little eyes and the tongue that held out there and big sharp teeth. Because, as the sailors say, when you're sailing on the ocean, you really want to be more scary than anything you'd find out there. So on they sailed. They sailed over waves and through sleet and storm and hail and night so dark you couldn't see your hand in front of your face, and fog so thick you'd cut it with a knife. And finally they landed, and the fog cleared and the sun came out, and my grandfather went, wow. Because the land he was in, it was green and it was beautiful and it was warm. Well, he says to himself, I must take a walk through this new land. And so he did. He walked along and he saw the trees and the green, enjoyed the green of the trees and the grass and the colors of the flowers, smelled their heady perfume, listened to the babbling of the brooks and the songs of the birds. It sounded a lot like a Disney cartoon. But anyway, on he walked until he became tired. And when he became tired, he found a clearing. In this clearing, the trees were growing in a perfect circle. The moss was as soft as a carpet underneath his feet. And he said, this is a great place to take a nap. And so he crossed his arms, backed up against one of the trees, crossed his feet in front of him, and was soon contentedly snoring. And woke up with a fairy blade at his throat. You see, my grandfather had committed a grievous sin. Where he was at was called a fairy circle, and that's where fairies go to celebrate important events. And they were celebrating something extremely important. That was King Oberon, the great king of all the fairies. It was his birthday that day. And the whole court, the Seelie court, the Unseelie court, everybody from the fairy world was there and celebrating. And my grandfather, being mortal, came in and broke their magic, so they were visible to the outside world. Well, they were not happy with him. So they took him to kneel before the king for judgment. So there he was, eyes looking to heaven, waiting for the Fey blade to come and take his life, when suddenly something, and he had no idea what it was, something brought his eyes down to meet the gaze directly of the great king himself. Now, King Oberon was amazed, because before him, all the mortals in King Oberon's realm, they all had hair of fire, eyes of green grass. This man had hair like the sun and eyes bluer than the summer sky. So not only did he look strange, but this mortal man was holding his gaze. Now, King Oberon and his sort, they were of the Unseelie court. So they were very frightening. Most times you would see like the little fairies with the wings, and they'd play with you, play tricks on you. And they were, they're not very scary. But once you get along to King Oberon's side of the court, things got a little bit scary. So mere mortals like you and I, we wouldn't be able to hold his gaze. Our eyes would go anywhere else but in his gaze. But here's my grandfather staring into his eyes. So King Oberon waited, and the party stopped. The music stopped. The whole court held its breath just to see what would happen. And they waited, and King Oberon waited, and the court waited, and my granddad waited. Until finally, one of the guards couldn't take the waiting any longer, and he raised his sword and was just about to bring it down and end this irritation to the fairy world for good and all, when King Oberon cried out, "Hold, wait a moment." And he crossed his arms, and he looked real stern. He said, "What are you doing here?" Now, it's been passed down through my entire family for the last couple of generations that in that type of situation, you always tell the exact honest truth, and he sure did. "I'm sorry, sir, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt any proceedings. I was just walking through the land and seeing how beautiful it was. I've never seen anything like it before. I'm really new here. You know, I'll just go away. I'll go far away. You'll never see me again, and you'll never be troubled by the likes of me again. Now, King Oberon, he was of the land, so of course he had a great love of the land himself. And after a couple of moments of deliberation, he then did something that until that point, so I'm told, was unprecedented. He invited my granddad to come sit with him and enjoy the party. So, the magic was put back, and what a party. There were fairies of all shapes and sizes and colors, fairies with blue hair, with red hair, eyes of green, eyes of yellow, eyes of red, and hair of every color imaginable, and some you even haven't. There were fairies that looked like rocks, like stones. There were fairies that looked like foxes and cats and dogs. And I heard tell, though I haven't had any proof of it, that my great-great-granddad had a great conversation with a fairy who looked a lot like a tree. But anyway, that was just the guests, the feasting. The food was amazing. Stuff you couldn't even imagine how it tasted, much less how to even eat it. And the dancing and the games, and it was a party to remember. But time passed, as time often does, and it was time for my granddad to move along. So King Oberon handed him this bottle and said, "This is my very own fairy dust. I will show you how to give the mark of Oberon so that whoever you find will be treated as an honored guest and not break our magic. But you have a quest for as long as the dust remains in this bottle. You are to find mortals that are like you, those who are true of heart and those who are true of courage. For only those who are true of heart would be able to tell the truth, the exact honest truth, no matter what, and those who are true of courage would be able to face a great fae without fainting dead away from fear." And so he showed my great-great-granddad, how to give the mark of Oberon. And from that day forward, the dust is still in this bottle. So it's been passed down. So it went from my great-granddad to my great-great-granddad to my great-granddad to my granddad to my dad, who, bless him, is way too old for this sort of thing. And now it's come to me. And it's my duty and my privilege to find those who are true of heart and true of courage, and give them the mark of Oberon, so that they may find the fairy circle and have a great time at the festivities therein.